What is up, everybody? We're back here at King Film Sports for the NFL Week 8 betting locks and game predictions here after we had a great week for the favorites. Only the Bengals and the Colts were the underdogs who won outright last week. Everyone other than that, all the favorites ended up cashing there. We did have some scintillating finishes, as always, as we get into midseason form here. Playoff pictures starting to take shape, and the top of these conferences look pretty wide open, both in the AFC and NFC, so it should be an entertaining middle and final stretch of the regular season. Brief recap before we get into the Week 8 action here. We had the Bengals easily clear their team total on Thursday night over the Steelers. Then the Jags just did not show up to London, end up getting clowned by the Rams 35-7 there. What was that? Then the Saints, I thought there were some plays to be made against that atrocious Bears secondary, but the wind in that game was pretty bad, and Rattler was just not up to the task there. So we end up losing Saints over 20 and a little bit of spread there as well. Then we switched our pick from Dolphins +3 to Browns -2 there, just with some of the injury news, along with the weather and the Dolphins' terrible morale. So you were able to buy out of your position if you did get the Dolphins +3, and then add some on the Browns -2 there. We gave that out in the Discord. That's top link in the description. Be sure to check that for all of the updates in terms of our plays in these games. Then we had the Raiders over 16.5. They just did not show up to Kansas City. They end up losing by 31. Could have been a lot worse if the Chiefs just didn't pull out their starters in the third quarter. Then the teaser. This was a very interesting game. We ended up hitting that on the Vikings +7.5. Carson Wentz, very inconsistent there. Thought that the Vikings could have easily won that game if he plays better. But we do end up getting the first leg of the teaser there. Titans are terrible, even without Brian Callahan. Cam Ward had a hilariously bad fumble that resembled Will Levis from last year, and the defense cannot stop a nosebleed, so Drake May went off. And now they're without Jeffrey Simmons, so they look to be a corpse going forward. And then we had the Giants +7, an insane collapse from them. The spread was never in doubt, but up 19 in the fourth quarter, and then the Broncos end up scoring 33 points there. Giants defense needs to be studied there, just giving up all of those deep balls to the Broncos offensive players. So the Broncos win 33-32. Then the second leg of our teaser cashes as well. We had the Colts +8 there, and they win outright against this Chargers team. This Colts offense is just unstoppable at this point. Then the Falcons offense, what was that on Sunday night? Penix just was able to do nothing against this Niners defense of backups. That was baffling there, as they can't even cover the spread. I definitely thought that they were going to win that game outright, or at least score more than 10 points. Then we had the Lions -4.5, hit easily against the Bucs in a game that I don't even think Detroit played very well in. Just some of that regression coming to the Bucs offense and Baker Mayfield. Only able to score 9 points against a Lions secondary filled with third and fourth stringers there. And then didn't have a play on the Seahawks-Texans game, but I did give out the Seahawks 16-1 to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. And I was surprised to see, even after that impressive win, it's still at 13-1 here. Now, there is a big pileup at the top of the NFC standings here with a bunch of these 5-2 teams. You have the Packers at 4-1-1 and a lot of teams on their heels as well. But I just think that the Seahawks, with that great defense and Sam Darnold playing as well he is with Jackson Smith and Jigba, Seahawks team, very easy schedule over the back half, and think that they could win this division with the Niners injuries and some Rams regression, and then very tough schedules for the Packers and Lions. Don't think that the Eagles or the Bucs are elite either, so give us the Seahawks to get the number 1 seed. I think if you haven't taken it yet, still take that at 13-1. So with that, we get into the Week 8 action. Here we have the Chargers hosting the Vikings. We have had a great run of Thursday night games and hope to continue that this week here. Hopefully another entertaining finish. In this one, give us the Chargers team total under 24.5. We always have this debate these last 4 or 5 years. Is Herbert an elite quarterback? Sometimes he looks like he's top 5, and sometimes he looks very mediocre, like last week, where he just had a couple terrible decisions on some interceptions there. And I think that this Vikings defense is very underrated. Brian Flores on a short week, going to be tough to prepare for. This Chargers team just has not been able to run the ball consistently all year, especially against good defenses. Chargers, yes, have some good weapons on the outside, but I think that they will be shut down by these Vikings corners. And on the other side, hopefully Carson Wentz just doesn't throw any bones to this Chargers team, such as the pick 6 that he threw to the Eagles last week. If all that happens, I think that we're in for a dogfight in this game. Don't mind the Vikings +3.5 if you're able to get that one there, but I do like the Chargers team total under better. Then we get to the Sunday action. We've got a Falcons-Dolphins matchup. Dolphins, is Mike McDaniel on the hot seat? I definitely think so. Tua as well after those 3 interceptions last week. This Dolphins team is just a tire fire. The Falcons have to play more consistent ball, though. They've had some great performances this year and also look terrible, as we saw against the Panthers, that 30-0 loss, and then last week in San Francisco. So definitely expect the offense to be better against the Dolphins' terrible defense there and the Falcons to win that one outright. Then we get to a very interesting game. 4-2 Bears against the Ravens at 1-5, and the Ravens are favored by 6.5 because Lamar Jackson is going to be back, as well as a couple other offensive stars. So I expect the Ravens to come out after their bye week on fire here. I expect that offense to put up 30-plus points against this Bears defense, who are very bad, especially in the secondary. I think that there are some plays to be made, and so I expect this Ravens team to win big in this matchup, minus 6.5. Yes, there are some concerns on the defense. Matabuke is out for the season, but you're getting some of those other Pro Bowl players back after the bye here. So I just think this is a great spot for this Ravens team to course correct their entire season here. They're only 3 games out of the division. I know that sounds very bad right now, but they do play the Steelers twice in December, so they're not out of this thing at all. Just need a little bit of a mentality correction here and Lamar to give them some better quarterback play. We also took the Ravens 11-1 to win the AFC and 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. This defense is never going to be elite as they've been in years past. It's just going to have to be Lamar carrying them to this division title, and I love a buy low spot on them to win the Super Bowl there on some of the long-term futures, and also this week minus 6.5 to get right. Next, we get to the Bills and the Panthers, and this one's kind of odd because Bryce Young went out last week against the Jets. It was just a very ugly win there in MetLife Stadium. Not much to be said right now, as we don't know if it's going to be him or Andy Dalton. Either way, I like the Bills to get right. They're coming off of a bye after they lost 2 straight, so definitely think that they will look better here, and I think that the Panthers are a little bit overrated at 4-3. Then we get to the Jets and the Bengals here. Jets, obviously the lone winless team in football. I just cannot understand how they're getting 7 points against the Bengals. The Bengals have probably the worst defense in football right now, so even with the Jets' horrible offense, they'll be able to put up 20 points in their sleep. That's just how bad Cincinnati is right now. And Joe Flacco, yes, he looked great against the Steelers, but a couple of those throws could have been picked. He is a very high variance player, so he can just as easily throw some pick sixes as he throws touchdowns to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins there. So just think that this Bengals team is overrated right now. Remember, before that Thursday night game, they were looking like one of the worst teams in football with those 4 straight losses here. So don't buy all the hype after one good week here. I think the Jets will come to play here after a tough loss to the Panthers, so give me them +7. Then we get to the first leg of our teaser, the Niners and the Texans here. Lots of injury uncertainty, as always, with the Niners, and then the Texans had a couple on that Monday night game. This is a tough situational spot for them. They went to the Pacific Northwest for that late Monday night game, now playing in the early window on Sunday here, and Nico Collins gets banged up with a concussion. So we're going to take the Niners +7.5, and you have the added prospect of getting Brock Purdy back along with Ricky Pearsall, as well as a couple players on that defense there. So I just like the Niners +7.5 in a game that I think will be lower scoring, a little bit of an ugly game there. I think it is very high likelihood that the Texans, even if they win, do not win by more than a possession there, even at home. Then next we get to the Browns +7.5 here. Browns looked very good last week, so we are buying a little high on them there. I do not think that Dylan Gabriel is a long-term starter in this league, but I do not think that the Patriots defense is necessarily elite. I think there are some plays to be made. I think that Quinshaw Judkins will be able to go off in the ground game for New England here. Hopefully Gabriel just doesn't make some big mistakes. And I think that some of the rhetoric surrounding Drake May is getting a little bit overboard here. Yes, he's having a great season, but they haven't played many great teams, and this Browns defense we know is elite. Sometimes they don't travel in these road games and end up giving up a few big plays here, but I do think that Myles Garrett will be able to go off there, and the Browns secondary did play great last week, so hopefully they are able to bait Drake May into a couple bad decisions there, keep this one close in a dogfight in New England. I just think that 7.5 is too many points right now. Similar logic for this next one. Give us the Giants in another spread that I think is a little inflated here. We have been 4-0 in against the spread predictions in Jackson Darts starts here. We took them to beat the Chargers there +6. Then the next week we took the Saints to win that game. And then the Thursday night game a couple weeks ago was the same spread, Giants +7. We ended up taking them. They went outright, and then they cover easily last week in the collapse to the Broncos. So similar logic here. I think that the Giants front 7 is stacked. The Eagles have not been able to run the ball with Saquon Barkley this entire season. They weren't able to do it a couple weeks ago in MetLife Stadium, so I don't think that they'll be able to do it here. Yes, Jalen Hurts did look good down the field to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, but the Giants defense will have to course correct. I think that their secondary will be in for a long week here of practice, getting roasted in that film session of the fourth quarter versus the Broncos here. So I think they'll be ready to play against the Eagles to get right. And I think that we'll see a dogfight there. Classic NFC East close matchup there. So give us the Giants to cover the 7.5 points. Then we get to an NFC South divisional matchup here. Give us the dog once again. We are taking the Saints plus 4.5 in the Superdome there. I think that Rattler will play much better against a pretty banged up Buccaneers defense, and the injuries just keep piling up for this Buccaneers offense as well. Baker Mayfield did not play well last week against a battered Lions defense, so what makes us think that he'll play better here against the Saints defense, who has been decent so far this season? Yes, he's been playing at an MVP level for the first 6 weeks, but I think that regression kind of shows what this offense is going to become in the long term here with just some of these offensive line and skill position issues there. So I definitely think that the spread is a little inflated at this point. I do not think that the Buccaneers record shows their level of play so far through the first 7 weeks of the season there. So give us the Saints plus 4.5. Then we get to a fun one in the Mile High. Both of these teams riding high after last week. The Broncos, that scintillating victory against the Giants, and then the Cowboys just completely wiped the floor with the Commanders. In this game, think that the spread of 3 is about right. The Cowboys just can't play defense right now, but that offense looks immaculate. And then the Broncos, what are we supposed to make of them? That defense is supposed to be great, but they gave up a lot of big plays to the Giants last week, and Bo Nix is very up and down right now. We will take Denver as just having the better roster there, but do think that Dak Prescott can make some plays. Then Titans and Colts, no reason to spend a lot of time in this game. Spread is about 14. Definitely expect the Colts offense to go off there, especially as I mentioned, Jeffrey Simmons out for this Titans defense. So I think that the Colts drop 30 to 40 points en route to a win. Then we get to the Aaron Rodgers revenge game, Packers and the Steelers in this game. We are taking the Steelers plus 3.5. Think that the Steelers record, even after last week, is still kind of inflated here at 4-2. But same can be said about the Packers. I mean, that was not an impressive victory against the Cardinals. They probably should have lost that game. Something is wrong with the offense, and specifically the ground game. They were not able to move the ball there consistently against the Cardinals. Yes, the Steelers defense has been bad, but I think that they can do some of that similar strategy that Arizona did last week. And Jordan Love, he hasn't necessarily been an all-pro so far this season. There's been some inconsistency there. So I think this Pittsburgh team at home, coming out ready to play after the extra rest, will be able to contain them there. And then the Packers defense, I think, other than Micah Parsons hasn't been too impressive, Jacoby Brissett actually looked pretty good last week there. So I do think there are some plays to be made, and Aaron Rodgers has looked very good so far this season. I think that he will show up to play on primetime. I think DK Metcalf will be able to go off against this Packers defense there. So give us the Steelers plus 3.5. I think it's a field goal game either way. And that brings us to Monday night, where we have the Commanders and the Chiefs. Now, this teaser is not available yet, but perhaps if the line dips down to minus 8.5 for the Chiefs, you'll be able to tease that one down 6-point teaser to Chiefs minus 2.5 with some of the injury uncertainty. Will Jaden Daniels be able to play? It's currently sitting around 10. I just think that this Chiefs team is playing great football right now. They are the favorite to win the AFC and probably playing the best football right now just due to that offense, and the defense now playing much better the past couple of weeks here. So I do think that they will be able to go off against the Commanders defense, who has just not been good this season. And without Jaden Daniels, this offense will be able to do nothing either. So definitely projecting a big Chiefs win there. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think of my bets in the comments down below. What do you think of the teaser? And what do you think about these underdogs going into week 8? As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.